Alright, so I'm going to tell a story. Um, Way back in, I'm guessing it was in the late 90s, my mom and I decided that we were going to go see Huey Lewis in the News. I was a huge fan of his back in, well, let's say the 80s. And my mom had breast cancer. Didn't know it at the time, but she decided we were going to go anyway. I called her up one day and she said, yeah, I'm game. So anyway, the two of us, we take off to Canada's Wonderland. At the time, um, it's kind of funny. Paramount, the people who bring you Star Trek and stuff, they decided they were going to, I guess, either buy or contract. I'm not sure how they worked that out. Um, for the rights to have everything being Star Trek over in Canada's Wonderland. Well, anyway, so there's these. You're walking through the park and all these. I saw a couple of kids harassing a Vulcan, which is something that I would never try doing. And so they, the staff there all dressed up. There were some people who just dressed up because, well, it's Star Trek. Funniest thing to ever happen. I'm walking along and I see the transporter pad, and they had a couple of guys that were working on it, and two guys who were dressed up as Ferengis. And in case you don't know what Ferengi is, Google that shit. They got huge ears on them and stuff. Well, anyway, so I go walking over. I'm talking to one of the guys, and my mom's standing there going, "It's just some kid in a costume. It's just some kid in a costume." And I was like, "Yeah," like I'm expecting this guy's really from Ferenginar. Well, anyway, so I go up, I pay the money, I go up, I get my picture taken. Now they do two different pictures. They do one of you solid, and then another one that looks like you're beaming out. Well, I'm hanging out, I'm waiting for the pictures to develop, and the Frankie I was talking to, his name was Talgar. And Talgar was, well, let's just say interesting. I am a Star Trek fan. My mom, you know, she wasn't really into Star Trek, and so she really didn't know anything about what the fandom was like. And so I'm standing there, and I'll change hands for this. He's like standing right here. I notice all of a sudden he's right behind me. He starts cowering behind me. And my mom's right in front of me, and the sky goes dark. And she, she's trying to figure out what's going on. So she turns around. My mom, I'm 5'1". My mom was about 5 foot, right around that. We were roughly about the same height. And so I look over. There was a Klingon right behind my mom. And she turned around, and she was like lower rib cage to him. And all she saw was just his battle armor. It was hilarious. My mom bolts, and here I am screaming, "It's just some kid in a costume!" Well, a little bit later, I'm realizing there's a bunch of kids, like just kind of like forming like a circle around us. And Talgar's freaked out. The Klingon looks pissed. And so he comes walking over and he starts swearing at me in this Ferengi and Klingon. I was kind of actually, you know, I was happy that he at least knew it. Well, he goes and he starts talking about how I shouldn't be hanging out Ferengis and everything. Well, I wrapped my arms around Talgar and I said, "Hey, he's my friend. I don't care what you have to say." And I realize I'm part of the act. Um, the kids are kind of standing around going, "Oh, there's going to be a fight," or they just want to see what's going to happen. Um, I I was standing there and I stood up for Talgar. And then I started spitting and swearing in Klingon. Trust me, at the time I could. I can't do it anymore. I barely know how to say kapla. Anyway, so he goes, he turns around on his giant horned boots and everything, and he stalked off. And he was like, "You need to treat your No, you have to pick your friends better or whatever it was he said. Well, anyway, so he wanders off. I look over. My mom is still pissing herself. She is so not happy, that this has all been happening. And anytime that I tell this story, and my mom's been dead since 2001, but anytime I tell the story, everybody is trying to put themselves into my mom's shoes because you're either a Star Trek fan or you're married to a Star Trek fan.